You're an athlete who is weeks into rehab, everything's going really well, your training is getting gradually harder, and suddenly you stop thinking about the training and start worrying about whether or not you're about to get injured again. This phenomenon is return to sport anxiety, and it's something that pretty much every athlete who has gone through the rehab phase knows about, and it's one of the most under-addressed parts of rehab. Why does anxiety build as your rehab progresses? This is generally something that happens because in the early stages of rehab, the work you are doing is pretty low intensity. It's going to be work that is trying to be more like protective and restorative. So you're going to do things like gentle range of motion work, probably some isometric exercises, so on and so forth. So these things aren't overly threatening to the injured area. However, as your injury heals and you start to notice that you can do a little bit more like functionally and things hurt less, we start to push the area that has been injured a little bit harder. And then as that intensity grows over time, you are going to start getting a little bit more anxious as to whether or not this injury is going to come back again, or you suffer a big flare-up or some kind of relapse. A nice example of this is during hamstring injury rehab, because doing a hammy is never fun and it can be really uncomfortable after you've done one, even just to walk around or sit on the toilet or do whatever that's you'd just consider a normal part of your day-to-day routine. So doing a hamstring sucks. Now, when you're starting to build your running speed again, you notice that you get a little bit anxious because as that speed goes up, you're getting closer and closer to the intensity that got you injured in the first place. And when you get to this point, every step you take becomes more of something that you're monitoring. You start thinking about, did I feel a tweak there? Is there some awareness in my hamstring? Am I going to re-injure it? I better not overstride just in case this happens. And all these things start rolling through your head, and it just becomes this big ball of stress and anxiety. The thing about all of this is that you do need to confront these sessions, because even though they're the most anxiety-inducing sessions, they're also the sessions that are going to build the most confidence for you to get back and really, really be confident that you can handle the volume and intensity that's required of you to get back on the field and play your sport. Because ultimately, to get back there, you do have to confront the thing that injured you in the first place. You cannot avoid this stage at all. Confidence is built by getting through these harder sessions, not avoiding them. And every single session that you accumulate with a successful outcome is another coin in the bank of confidence, where you know that, hey, I got through this. I think I'm ready to get through the rest of my rehab as long as I'm progressing accordingly. All of these sessions become proof that you can handle the intensity that's required, and it's not just hope that you're banking on getting through. Most people that I've come across who get stuck are either in one of two positions. They will avoid those really hard and scary sessions that induce a lot of anxiety because of the fear that they're going to get re-injured, and the other group of people are the ones who basically just use hope. They say, all right, this is what I need to do. I'm just going to do it and hope that I get through it. And if I do, great. And if I don't, well, then we'll just worry about that when it happens. They don't have any structured planning in front of them. And both of these scenarios are a problem. So the key to overcoming this anxiety is going off your objective markers. You need to have objective testing along the way during your rehab that shows you are ready to progress to the next stage and not just banking on hoping that you'll get through. Managing anxiety isn't just like this magical mindset that you're in. It's not trying to trick your brain. It's just trying to be objective, see it on paper, and understand that what you are doing is going to get you there. For example, if you are someone who has done an ACL before, or you know someone who has done an ACL before, when we get to that stage of rehab where we're returning to running, this can be a little bit anxiety inducing for these athletes. However, the objective testing that we use to get someone to the point of being able to return to running is checking, can they do a single leg squat for 15 reps? Can they do a single leg glute bridge for 20 reps? Can they do a single leg calf raise for 20 reps? Can they do a vertical and a horizontal hop test for 15 consecutive reps? And do they look powerful? Do they look rhythmic? And so if you're ticking off all of these objective measures, then we know that you're very close, if not ready, to being able to return to running, because you've got that baseline there underneath you that's going to support your ability to do it. And if you can't tick them off, then at least you know you're not ready to return to running, and you can be confident in the fact that, hey, I might not be there yet, but I'm well on my way once I have ticked off these measures, so I can then confidently start running again. And these objective measures matter because it takes away the feeling of, like, do I feel ready to do it? And it puts that objective marker in front of you that shows you, are you ready to do it? And these objective markers, like I've said previously, are the things that are going to build your confidence. It's not just the feeling of readiness or hoping. Now, on top of these objective markers, we can also use the graded exposure approach to build confidence back into our ability to compete at a high level. Because confidence is something that is built cumulatively over time. It's not something that you just do and then suddenly you're confident because you've done this one thing. We're ticking off session by session by session as we gradually increase the intensity to get back to where we need to be. And like I said, each one of those successful outcomes is a deposit into the coin box of confidence. Starting off with tasks that are lower stakes. So, for example, in the running side of things, if you're really anxious about getting back to running, like post hamstring, then you're going to start off by doing maybe some running drills or some low-level plyometrics. So things that still require a reasonable level of force output and a reasonable level of like reactive and plyometric ability. All of these things start to get you closer to the demands of running. So can you start doing things like single leg broad jumps repetitively and double leg broad jumps repetitively, or gallops or A skips and B skips, and all of these running drills that still help build confidence in the movement pattern, but it's just a little bit away from the specific task of running. When you start to feel like you can do those, and you're starting to get a little bit rhythmic and a little bit bouncy with your reps, then you're like, hey, I'm actually feeling pretty good and I can start perhaps getting a little bit more into that intense running again. Don't try to make your goal being to just remove anxiety in the rehab process. The goal is more to naturally progress your rehab programming over time appropriately. That will help your anxiety reduce as your evidence that you can progress accumulates. When does rehab anxiety become a problem rather than just a normal caution? It becomes a problem when your fear of progressing forward stops you progressing forward rather than just your physical capacity. If you are skipping sessions, avoiding progression, or if you're just staying stuck in a lower intensity despite all of the data saying that you can progress, then this is when it becomes more of an issue. And maybe at this point, if you are an athlete yourself or you know someone who is having a real problem with this, it might be time to start thinking about perhaps involving some kind of sports psychologist who can help you get past this rehab anxiety stage. Because if it does become fear rather than physical limitation and you can't overcome that, you need someone who can help you. And don't see this as a failure. You just have to see this as getting someone else into the picture who can help you along rather than just your physio who is providing the rehab programming. You need to be able to train your mind just as hard as you train your body, if not harder in some circumstances. So remember this, the athletes who return to sport successfully are not the athletes who had zero fear at all. They're the athletes who kept progressing on objective data and moving through their rehab appropriately that way, rather than just hoping or letting fear get in the way. And the theme of this is very similar to the previous video I made on being ready versus feeling ready. And if you want some more information on those particular topics, you can watch this video right here that's going to teach you all about that.